Somewhere above you, beyond the ceiling and the roof and the thin blue shell of air that keeps the world warm, the dark is not empty. It is patient. It stretches out in every direction, soft and immense, scattered with points of ancient light that have been travelling toward this exact moment for longer than there have been eyes to receive them. You do not have to reach for any of it. Let the room hold you. Let the weight of the day loosen at the shoulders and slide away. The universe is already here, all around the small warm space where you are resting, and it asks nothing of you tonight but stillness. Picture the faintest of those points, the way it trembles, the way it seems almost shy against the velvet black. That tiny gleam is not a thing so much as a message, a little parcel of brightness sent across a distance the mind can barely begin to fold itself around. It crossed an ocean of nothing to find you, and it found you here in the dark with your eyes growing heavy and your thoughts beginning to slow. The most gentle truth of all is this: the deeper you look into that darkness, the further back in time you're looking. The night sky is a kind of memory, layered and luminous, and you're lying beneath all of it now, breathing slowly, perfectly safe. You do not need to remember any of what comes next. There will be no questions in the morning. Let the ideas drift in like slow weather, settle for a moment, and move on if they wish. What stays with you, stays. What slips away was never yours to keep. There is nothing to grasp, nothing to hold, no thread to follow too closely. Let the mind grow soft and wide as the dark itself, and simply float through these quiet wonders, one after another, the way a leaf drifts down a river that is in no hurry to arrive anywhere. The current will carry you. You have only to rest upon it. Everything you can ever know begins in that pool of light around you. Let it carry you towards sleep. Begin with the simple and astonishing fact that you can see the past with your own two eyes. Light does not arrive instantly. It travels, swift but not infinite, at a fixed and faithful speed, and so every star you have ever noticed is showing you not how it looks tonight, but how it looked when its light first set out. Some of that glow left its source while empires were rising on this earth, while the first stones of forgotten cities were being laid. By the time it brushes against your eye, the sender may have changed beyond recognition, or wandered far across the sky, or even guttered out entirely. You're watching a candle that was lit long ago, in a window very far away, and the watching itself is a kind of tenderness across the dark. There is no hurry in it, and no need to understand it fully. It is enough simply to know that the past is gently visible, hanging quietly overhead. Because of this curious property of light, astronomers have a gentle name for the boundary of all we can perceive. They call it the observable universe, and it is not the edge of everything that exists, but the edge of everything whose light has had time to reach us since the cosmos began. Beyond it, there is almost certainly more, far more, unfolding quietly out of sight, forever beyond our seeing. But within that great sphere, with us resting peacefully at its centre, lies a region so vast that the numbers describing it lose their sharpness and become a kind of music instead. Roughly 93 billion light-years across, it holds everything we will ever be able to study, every star and cloud and galaxy we could ever name, and still it may be only the smallest hush of the whole. The true universe runs on past that bright horizon in every direction, more of it than there has ever been time for any light to cross, unfolding out of sight while you lie here at the calm and ordinary centre of all you can see. You might wonder, drifting on the edge of that thought, how something can be 93 billion light-years wide when the universe is younger than that, only about 14 billion years old. The answer is as soft and strange as a dream. Space itself has been stretching all this while, growing larger between the galaxies, carrying the most distant light along on a slowly expanding current. So the things whose ancient glow we now receive have since been swept much farther away than the simple distance their light has travelled. The cosmos is not sitting still and old, like a finished room. It is unfolding, like a vast sheet being pulled smoothly at every corner, carrying everything along without ever a tremor of the motion. You're riding it now, this very second, and the ride is so smooth that it feels exactly like lying still. Within this expanse, the sheer abundance is almost too much for the heart to hold, and so it is best held lightly. The very best surveys, peering into tiny patches of seemingly empty sky and patiently counting the smudges of light gathered there, suggest that the observable universe contains something like 2 trillion galaxies. Not stars, galaxies, each one a whole swirling city of suns, each holding many billions of stars of its own. Picture a single grain of sand held up against that number, and then imagine the beaches, all the beaches of all the world, and then more beyond them. The mind cannot truly count so high, and it does not need to. 2 trillion swirling cities of suns, scattered to the farthest dark, no eye that will ever finish the tally. If the galaxies themselves are beyond counting, then the stars within them pass entirely beyond all imagining. Gather every grain of sand on every beach and in every desert across the whole of the earth, and astronomers tell us there are still far more stars shining in the observable universe than all those countless grains together. Each single star is a sun, many of them larger and brighter than our own, and there are more of them than there are grains of sand on all the shores of the world. The number is too great for the mind to truly carry, and so it is better simply felt, a sense of plenty beyond all measure, a richness of light that no one will ever finish counting. Those galaxies are not flung at random across the void, scattered carelessly into the dark. Look closely, with the patient eyes of our great instruments, and a pattern emerges delicate as frost upon a winter window. The galaxies gather into clusters, and the clusters string themselves into long luminous filaments, and between the filaments yawn enormous quiet hollows where almost nothing lives at all. Astronomers call this the cosmic web, and it is real, carefully mapped out across the sky over many years of unhurried work. The universe, at its largest scale, resembles a vast and gentle lacework, a net of light draped across the dark, with us nestled somewhere along one of its glowing threads. We are a single bright knot in an enormous slow-spun web, and the web holds us softly, exactly where we are. Now let your attention drift inward, toward the faint light that fills the spaces between the strands of that web. Long before any star existed, before there was anything to call a galaxy, the entire cosmos was a warm and even glow, a fog of radiant heat with no shape at all and no shadow anywhere within it. As space expanded across the ages, that fog cooled and faded, and today it lingers as the faintest possible whisper of warmth coming from every direction at once. We call it the cosmic microwave background, and it is in a sense the oldest light there is, the afterglow of the universe's first clear morning. Once it was the fierce glare of a fog hotter than any furnace, but across nearly 14 billion years of expanding space it has cooled and stretched and dimmed, until now it hovers only a few degrees above the very coldest temperature there can be, a warmth so faint it is more a memory of heat than heat itself. A small fraction of the gentle static that once flickered on untuned televisions was this very signal, brushing against the antenna from the dawn of all things. The first light of the cosmos is still arriving, soft and uniform, all around you, even now, even here. That ancient warmth is astonishingly even, smooth to within a tiny fraction of a degree across the entire sky, and yet not perfectly so. And in that gentle imperfection lies the seed of everything. Within the smooth glow lie the faintest ripples, regions a hair warmer or cooler than their surroundings, differences too small to feel. Those ripples were the beginning of all structure. The slightly denser patches pulled in a little more matter by their gentle gravity, and over billions of patient years they grew into the galaxies and clusters and great filaments we see today. Everything vast began as a barely there whisper of unevenness in a calm sea of light. The grandest structures in all of existence trace their quiet lineage back to a hush, to a difference so faint it could scarcely be measured. There is something deeply soothing in that all the grandeur came, in the end, from softness. The body has begun to settle now, the limbs growing heavy, the breath finding its own slow rhythm without any help from you at all. There is nothing to do here but receive these small wonders and let them pass on through, like clouds across an evening. And behind the visible glow stands something unseen, a quiet scaffolding that holds the galaxies, the hidden hands that keep it all from coming apart. For everything you can see in the sky, there is far more that you cannot, and there is no reason to fear the unseen. When astronomers weigh the galaxies by carefully watching how fast they spin, the stars at their outer edges move far too quickly to be held in place by the visible matter alone. By every rule we know, those whirling disks should fly apart. Something invisible is there, woven all through them, adding its quiet gravity, keeping the great pinwheels gently bound. This unseen substance is called dark matter, and it appears to outweigh all the ordinary matter, all the stars and planets and gas and dust we can ever see, by roughly 5 to 1. The luminous universe we admire is only the foam riding upon the surface of a far deeper and quieter ocean. Most of what holds the cosmos together never shines at all. It simply waits and steadies, unseen and unhurried. And there is something stranger still, woven through the vast empty distances between the galaxies. The expansion of the cosmos, rather than slowing under the gathered pull of all that gravity as one might expect, has actually been speeding up over the last several billion years, growing gently faster with time. Some quiet pressure seems to push space apart from within, strengthening as the voids between the galaxies widen. We have given this mystery a name, dark energy. Though the name is mostly a soft placeholder for our wonder, it may make up nearly 7/10 of everything that is, the largest single ingredient of the cosmos, and yet it remains almost entirely unknown to us. The universe keeps its greatest secret in plain and patient view, written across every empty stretch of sky, untroubled that we cannot yet read it. So when you add it all together, the ordinary matter that builds stars and worlds and living bodies, everything we have ever touched or seen or been, every mountain and ocean and breath, amounts to less than 5 small parts in 100 of the whole. We are the bright minority, the rare and shining exception, a thin sparkle of the familiar floating in an ocean of the unknown. You do not have to carry the weight of the cosmos upon your shoulders. You are a small warm light within an immensity that holds you, and that is enough. Let the smallness be a comfort, the way a child feels safe precisely because the world is so much larger than they are. Your thoughts can loosen further now, the way clouds lose their edges at dusk and melt into one another. Imagine the scale of a single galaxy, our own, the pale band you can sometimes see arching across a truly dark country sky on a moonless night. A single beam of light, leaving one rim of our galaxy at the fastest pace anything can ever travel and racing straight across, would not reach the far side for 100,000 years. And our galaxy is only one of 2 trillion others, no grander or larger than a great many of them. Each one a wheel of light so wide that a ray spends 1,000 human lifetimes simply crossing from edge to edge of home. Every one of those countless galaxies is turning, slowly and forever, like a great wheel of light. Ours rotates with a slow and stately patience, carrying the sun and all its planets around the distant centre in a single grand and unhurried circuit. One full turn of this enormous cosmic carousel takes roughly 230 million years. The last time our solar system rested at this exact point in its long orbit, the earliest dinosaurs were just beginning to walk upon the young and shifting continents. We have circled the centre only once since then, no more than a single revolution. You're riding a wheel so vast that one quiet turn of it spans nearly the whole history of complex life upon the Earth, and you have never once felt the slightest tremor of the turning. It carries you so gently that it feels like perfect stillness. Notice your breathing, unhurried and deep, rising and falling all on its own, and let this next wonder rest lightly upon you without any effort to grasp it. At the very heart of our galaxy, and at the heart of nearly every large galaxy in the cosmos, there sits a region of such tremendously concentrated mass that not even light itself can climb away from it. A supermassive black hole, weighing millions of times as much as the Sun, anchors the swirling stars around it like a quiet and invisible keystone. Ours is relatively calm now, resting peacefully between meals, and the whole great pinwheel of hundreds of billions of stars revolves serenely around that hidden centre. Even the darkest and most powerful things in the cosmos can hold an entire system gently and faithfully in place, without violence, without haste, simply by being what they are. These ideas can simply float by. There is no need to keep any of them. The mind is a still pond at evening, and the facts are only light playing upon its surface, arriving, lingering, sliding away. The largest shapes have passed, the web, the turning wheels, the hidden anchors, and the smaller wonders are nearer now, the luminous particular things, each one its own small lamp in all that distance. The closest of those lamps is a faint and ghostly smudge you can find on a clear autumn night, with a little patience and no moon to wash it away. Andromeda is its name, and it is the most distant single thing the unaided human eye can ever see, 2.5 million light-years away across the void. When you look at it, the light entering your eye left that galaxy before our own species existed anywhere upon the Earth. You are gazing not merely across space, but across the whole of human prehistory, at a glow older than language, older than fire, older than the first hand that ever reached toward the sky in wonder. And though to the eye it seems only a small grey smudge, the true breadth of that galaxy across the sky is wider than 6 full moons set side by side. The part you can see is merely its bright heart, the faint outer arms lost in the dark. A whole separate island of perhaps 1 trillion suns, hanging there in the autumn dark, its bright heart no broader to the eye than a thumbnail held at arm's length, and yet so far off that its light set out before there were any human eyes at all to wait for it. To see it is to touch the deep past with nothing but your open eyes. That faint and ancient companion is also drifting slowly toward us, gently closing the enormous gap between us across the ages. In several billion years, Andromeda and our own galaxy will meet and gradually merge, 2 great spirals flowing through and around one another in a dance so slow it would seem perfectly motionless to any single watcher within it. Yet there is no collision to fear in any of it. The stars inside galaxies are so widely and generously spaced that they will almost certainly pass without ever touching, like 2 vast clouds of fireflies drifting through each other in the warm dark of a summer field. Even the grandest meeting of worlds, the merging of 2 entire galaxies, can be a gentle and graceful thing, unfolding so slowly across such an unimaginable hush of time that no creature alive within it would feel any shock at all. Not every galaxy wears the lovely spiral shape of our own and of Andromeda. Across the vast reaches, galaxies come in a quiet variety of forms, each shaped by its own long history. Some are great smooth ovals of old red stars, ellipticals, calm and ancient and no longer making many new suns. Others are ragged and irregular, scattered into soft shapes by the gentle pull of a passing neighbour. And the loveliest, perhaps, are the grand spirals like ours, their bright arms wound gracefully around a glowing centre. Together they form a slow gallery of shapes drifting through the dark, no 2 of them quite alike, each one a whole world of suns arranged in its own particular and silent design. Within and around many galaxies drift the globular clusters, tight and ancient spheres of hundreds of thousands of stars all bound closely together by their shared gravity. These clusters are among the very oldest things in the cosmos, nearly as old as the universe itself, their stars having burned quietly side by side for well over 12 billion years. Imagine a single ball of light holding 100,000 suns, packed so closely that, on a world deep inside one, the night sky would blaze with countless brilliant stars and never grow truly dark at all. They circle the outskirts of galaxies like slow and shining lanterns, faithful and unchanging, keepers of the deep and ancient past. Now consider the emptiness between those stars, for it is far emptier and quieter than any silence you have ever known. If our sun were shrunk down to the size of a single grain of sand, the very nearest other star would lie several miles away from it, with nothing but pure vacuum stretched between. Galaxies look crowded and bright and busy from a great distance, all that gathered light blurring together. But up close, they are mostly the emptiest kind of nothing, vast and echoing halls of darkness, with rare and scattered fires set very far apart. The night you rest beneath is built far more of open space than of any solid substance. Miles of pure vacuum between each grain of sand sun and the next. The nearest star to our own sun drifts in that emptiness just a little over 4 light-years away. A quiet trio of suns we call Proxima, and the 2 Centauri stars, bound loosely together in the dark. Even at this, the very closest of all our stellar neighbours, the distance is so immense that our fastest spacecraft, hurtling along at many miles each second, would still need tens of thousands of years to arrive. The stars are not lonely exactly, but they keep a generous and patient space between them, each one tending its own small region of the dark, each one a distant fire that has never once met another. Proxima, that nearest of all neighbours, carries a small companion of its very own, a world roughly the size of our Earth, circling faithfully in the gentle band of warmth where liquid water might just be possible upon its surface. We do not know what that surface truly holds, whether it is rock or sea or storm. We know only that the world is there, turning patiently around its dim red sun, the closest planet beyond our own small family of worlds. Somewhere in the nearest reaches of the dark, an Earth-sized world is greeting a different dawn this very moment, lit by a different and redder light. The thought alone is enough. You need not journey there tonight, or ever. It is simply lovely beyond measure that such a place exists at all, quietly turning, whether or not anyone is ever there to see it. The breath grows slower still, and the body sinks a little deeper into the warmth of where you lie, heavy and safe. The stars themselves, those distant suns, are astonishingly different one from another. The star we call Proxima is small and cool, a dim red ember that will burn with a miserly and tender patience. The smallest and coolest of all stars, these red dwarfs, sip their fuel so slowly and so carefully that they may shine steadily for trillions of years, far, far longer than the entire universe has yet existed. Most of the stars scattered through the whole of the cosmos are these quiet, enduring embers, modest and faithful, and they will be the very last light still glowing in the dark long after all the brighter and grander ones have faded into silence. At the other end of the great scale of stars shine the giants, suns so tremendously enormous that the mind can barely hold their shape. If one of the largest stars we know were somehow set in place of our own sun, its glowing surface would swallow the orbits of the inner planets entirely, reaching out far past where the Earth now turns. These colossal stars live fast and brilliant and short lives, burning through their vast stores of fuel in only a few million years, the fleeting blaze that lasts a moment beside the eternal ember that may outlast time itself, brief and dazzling sparks against the long, slow patience of the small red embers. The colours of the stars themselves quietly tell us how hot each one burns, a soft language written in light. The cool stars glow a gentle red or orange, like dying embers in a hearth. The warmer ones shine yellow and white, and the very hottest of all blaze a brilliant blue. It runs opposite to the way we often think of warmth, for here the red stars are the cool ones, and the blue the fiercest. When you gaze up at the scattered night and notice that one star glimmers faintly red while another burns icy blue, you're reading their very temperatures with your own eyes, feeling the heat of distant fires simply by their colour. The sky quietly tells its own warmth to anyone who pauses to look. That contrast can soften and blur at its edges now, the great and the small dissolving together. Between the two extremes lies our own sun, a steady, middle-sized star of a comfortable yellow warmth, and it too is far more remarkable than its everyday familiarity might suggest. Within its blazing core, every single second of every day, hydrogen is being fused into helium, and a tiny portion of that matter is converted directly into pure light and warmth. The sun loses several million tons of its own substance each second, transformed completely into the radiance that has warmed every summer afternoon you've ever known, every windowsill where you have ever rested in the sun. The light upon your skin is the sun quietly spending itself, giving away pieces of its own body, and it has been doing so, faithfully and without complaint, for well over 4 billion years. That same sunlight you have felt so many times across your life carries its own slow and hidden secret. The energy that radiates from the sun's bright surface began its long journey deep within the core, but the path outward through all that dense and crowded matter is so slow and so tangled that a single packet of light can take many thousands of years simply to struggle from the center to the surface and break free. By the time it finally leaps loose and crosses the gulf to the Earth in 8 short minutes, the warmth touching the world may be older than all of recorded history. Every sunrise is, in part, an ancient thing finally set free after thousands of years of patient waiting in the dark interior of a star, older perhaps than all of recorded history before it ever touches your face. There is a small and lovely truth too, hidden inside the colour of our own star. Though we call the sun yellow, and though it often glows golden or orange low on the horizon, its true colour, seen from beyond the air, is a pure and gentle white, holding within it every colour of the rainbow blended evenly together. It is only our own atmosphere scattering away the blue light that tints the sun gold to our eyes by day and deep red at its setting. The whiteness of clouds and of fresh snow is, in truth, the honest colour of sunlight itself, faithfully reflected back. Every colour you have ever seen, every shade of every flower and leaf and painting, was first carried to your eyes within that single quiet stream of white starlight. Our sun is not at all unusual in keeping company. Most stars do not travel through the dark alone, but in pairs, 2 suns bound together by gravity, circling a shared centre patiently for the whole of their long lives. Some skies, on distant and unseen worlds, would hold 2 shadows for every object, 2 dawns and 2 dusks woven into a single passing day. The cosmos seems to favour company over solitude among its stars, drawing them again and again into faithful partnerships that last for the whole of their lives, countless paired lights, turning slowly around one another in the silence, 2 suns keeping each other company across spans of time the mind can scarcely hold. Rest in that image of 2 distant suns orbiting in unbroken silence. You're doing nothing wrong by letting your thoughts thin and lose their shape. This is exactly how the night is meant to be spent. And in the great spaces between such suns, where the dark seems emptiest, there are clouds, immense and glowing, and it is there that new stars are born, and there, in the end, that they return. In those vast spaces between the stars float the nebulae, immense clouds of gas and dust adrift in the patient dark, and they are the quiet gardens where new suns first take shape. Within the densest and coldest folds of such a cloud, gravity slowly and tirelessly gathers the scattered matter together, drawing it inward over long ages until the centre grows hot enough at last to ignite into a star. A sun is not built in a single bright moment. It is quietly and slowly assembled out of a cold and shapeless cloud, a long condensation of light gathered up out of near nothing. The most brilliant fires in all the sky all began as the very dimmest, coldest, most formless drifts of gas, coming together with infinite patience in the dark, atom by atom, across uncounted years. Some of these stellar nurseries stretch across such tremendous distances that light itself takes many years simply to cross from one side to the other. The towering pillars of glowing gas within them sculpted by the radiation streaming from newborn stars nearby, can stand many light years tall, vast soft-edged columns of luminous mist, with new suns still being born deep inside them even now. They are among the most beautiful sights our great instruments have ever returned to us, lit from within like the high windows of some immense cathedral, made entirely of cloud and light. And every single one of them is a place of pure beginning, a nursery as large across as the very heart of a small galaxy, new suns kindling deep in its luminous columns even now. The colours of these great clouds are not painted there for our pleasure, and yet they fall upon the eye like an unasked for kindness. The deep glowing reds come from hydrogen gas, shining under the gentle touch of nearby starlight. The soft greens and blues arise from oxygen and other elements, each lit in its own particular and characteristic way. Every hue is a quiet signature of exactly what the cloud is made of, a delicate language of light written silently across the dark for anyone with eyes to read it. When you see a beautiful image of a glowing nebula, you are in truth reading the very composition of the cosmos itself rendered patiently in colour. The universe labels its own ingredients in the most luminous of scripts, a quiet inventory written in light. Not all of these great clouds are nurseries of light. Some are dark, cold and starless, vast banks of dust so dense that they blot out the stars lying behind them. When you gaze up at the pale band of our own galaxy on a clear summer night, those long ragged shadows cutting across its glow are not empty gaps at all, but immense clouds of cold dust drifting between us and the distant suns. The ancient peoples who watched those dark lanes gave them names and shapes of their own, reading whole creatures into the shadows. And within those very same cold and lightless clouds hidden from view, new stars are even now quietly gathering themselves together. The darkest places in the sky are often the most fertile, the very cradles from which future light will rise. And consider, drifting softly, just how richly our own galaxy is filled. The pale band of the Milky Way that arches across a truly dark sky is not a cloud at all, but the combined and blended glow of countless billions of distant stars, so many and so far away that their separate lights melt together into a single soft river of brightness. Our galaxy holds something on the order of 200 or 300 billion stars in all, each one a sun, many of them circled by worlds of their own. When you look at that gentle band, you're gazing edge-on into the flattened disk of your own home galaxy, seeing its many billions of suns gathered into one faint and luminous ribbon. We live within it, looking out, and the whole of that soft glow is simply our neighbourhood, seen from the inside. Here is a thought to hold very loosely now, as the breath slows further still and the body grows heavier. Every single atom in your body that is heavier than the very simplest few was forged long ago inside a star. The carbon woven through your cells, the oxygen you're breathing slowly in and out at this very moment, the iron that warms and reddens your blood, all of it was cooked in the blazing hearts of ancient suns and scattered gently outward when those suns reach the end of their lives. You are, quite literally and truly, made of stardust, gathered together out of the ruins of stars that lived and burned and died long before the Earth itself was ever formed. The night sky is not only above you, far overhead, it is also within you, woven into every breath and every heartbeat, closer than your own skin. That can settle deeply now. The body grows heavier with each easy exhale, sinking toward rest, and the mind drifts unmoored from any single thought. When a large star finally reaches the end of its long, slow burning, it does not simply wink out. It releases its outer layers in a luminous exhalation, casting a glowing shell of gas outward into the surrounding dark. These expanding bubbles of colour are called planetary nebulae, though they have nothing at all to do with planets. They are the final, luminous breath of a dying sun, a glowing ring or shell of red and green and blue that will shine on for thousands of years before dispersing back into the void, lit from inside all the while by the small, fierce ember of the dead star's bare core. Even an ending far out there in the deep can take the shape of a flower opening in the slowest and most graceful of motions. Our own sun will one day exhale in just exactly this way, when its time comes round at last. Billions upon billions of years from now, having first swelled enormously and then cooled, it will gently let go of its outer layers and leave behind only its small, dense, glowing core, dimming slowly as the long ages pass over it. There is truly no need to feel any sorrow at this distant ending. It lies further ahead in time than the mind can ever truly reach or imagine, and by the time it comes, this gentle star will have given its warmth and its light freely for some 10 billion years in all. Every ending in the cosmos is also quietly a returning, a giving back of precious matter to the dark, from which new stars and new worlds will one day rise again. Nothing is ever truly lost out there. It is only loaned and then returned. That faint and dense remnant the sun will leave behind when it has finished has a name of its own, soft and small. A white dwarf, it is called, a sphere about the size of the entire Earth, yet holding nearly as much mass as the whole sun, packed so impossibly tightly that a single spoonful of its substance would weigh as much as a small mountain here on the ground. These cooling embers are the quiet and peaceful graves of ordinary stars, and there are truly countless numbers of them drifting through every galaxy, dimming so gradually over spans of time that dwarf even the present age of the universe. And as one of them cools across the long ages, the carbon at its heart slowly begins to crystallize, settling into an ordered lattice, so that the distant, far future remnant of a star may become something very like an enormous diamond, a cold, pale jewel as large across as a whole world. The dark is full of these fading lanterns, each one cooling so patiently that not a single one of them has yet had time to grow fully cold. Notice how little effort everything requires of you now. There is nothing to solve, nowhere you need to go, no problem waiting for you in the dark. The very largest stars, when at last they die, end far more dramatically than the small and gentle ones do, though even this great drama can be held softly and without fear from such a vast and safe distance. They collapse suddenly in upon themselves and then rebound outward in a single tremendous flash of light that, for a few short weeks, can outshine an entire galaxy of 100 billion suns all at once. A supernova, it is called, the brilliant and explosive death of a giant star, and in that final blaze the very heaviest elements of all are forged in an instant and flung far across space. Gold and silver, the bright metals we have treasured and prized for all of human history, were born in the violent deaths of stars. Every ring and every coin traces its quiet origin back to the death of a distant star. And such deaths are rare in any one galaxy, only a small handful in a whole century, so that to witness one with your own eyes is among the rarer gifts a single human life can be given. Most who have ever lived never saw one at all. When a giant star collapses in that final flash, it sometimes leaves behind not a quiet white dwarf, but something far stranger and more concentrated still. The crushed core of the star can be squeezed so tightly that all its matter is packed into a sphere only a dozen miles across, yet holding more mass than our entire sun. This is a neutron star, and a piece of it no larger than a single sugar cube would, here on the ground, outweigh an entire mountain range. It is matter pressed to almost unimaginable density. The heart of a sun compressed into the size of a sleeping town, spinning silently far out in the dark. And its gravity pulls so evenly that it smooths the whole crushed surface into one of the roundest things in all of nature, a sphere so perfect that its tallest mountains rise no higher than a finger's width above the rest. The cosmos can fold a star down small enough to hold in the hand and still keep all of its weight. Some of these tiny crushed stars spin with an astonishing and tireless regularity, sweeping beams of light around like the lamp of a distant lighthouse turning in the night. As such a star whirls, sometimes many hundreds of times each second, its beam flicks past the Earth again and again with a beat so precise it rivals the finest clocks ever built. We call these spinning beacons pulsars, and the first one ever found beat so steadily and so faithfully that those who discovered it half wondered, for a little while, whether it might be a signal from some distant mind, and gave it for a time a playful, half-serious name that meant simply the little green men. It was only a dead star, turning, a crushed sphere a dozen miles wide, spinning hundreds of times in a single second, flinging its narrow beam past the Earth with each rotation, so that what reaches us is a steady tick, and another, marching on without the smallest falter. And yet there is a quiet marvel in it, that the corpse of a sun should keep such perfect, patient time across the empty reaches of space, ticking on faithfully long after every clock ever built on Earth has wound down into silence. So the very ground beneath your feet, the solid and familiar stuff of the Earth itself, is in truth the gathered ash and inheritance of older suns that burned and died before us. Our whole solar system slowly condensed, some 4.5 billion years ago, out of an enormous cloud already enriched and salted by the deaths of earlier generations of stars, a cloud already laced through with the carbon and oxygen and iron that those stars had patiently made. We're a late and fortunate generation, built entirely from inheritance, standing and resting upon the recycled and reused substance of the ancient cosmos. There is a deep and quiet sense of belonging in that thought, soft as a homecoming. We did not arrive here as strangers from nowhere. We were carefully assembled from the very oldest materials there are. Let your thoughts grow round and smooth, like river stones worn down by long water. Stars are born and stars die, and both are patient, both unhurried. That much the dark has shown you. Now it holds something stranger. Places where the ordinary rules of space and time begin to bend towards something close to a dream. No single idea need hold you for long here, or ask anything of you. Strangest of all those places are the black holes, and they are far more peaceful to consider from afar than their dark name might first suggest. A black hole is simply a region where so much matter is gathered into so small a space that nothing at all, not even light itself, has the speed to climb back out against its pull. It is not a hole in the ordinary sense at all, not a tunnel or an opening or a doorway, but rather a place where the very fabric of space curves so steeply and so deeply that every possible path leads gently inward. Around it lies a boundary called the event horizon, a quiet point of no return, beyond which the cosmos keeps its most private secrets entirely and forever to itself, unseen and undisturbed. Time itself behaves tenderly and strangely in the presence of such a place, bending where the gravity grows strong. The stronger the pull at any spot, the more slowly time flows there, so a clock resting near a black hole would tick along behind an identical clock held safely far away. To a distant watcher, anything falling toward the horizon would appear to slow, and slow further still, and never quite arrive at all, its motion stretching out toward an endless and frozen pause. This is not a trick of the eye or a failure of instruments, but a real and woven feature of the cosmos. Time is simply not the same everywhere, but bends and pools and gathers around great mass the way still water finds and fills the lowest places in the land. Even the steady passing of ordinary moments is stranger than it ever seems. The very largest of these black holes are nearly impossible to picture truly, and so you may simply allow their immense scale to wash over you without ever once grasping at it. At the centres of the greatest galaxies of all sit black holes weighing billions of times as much as the Sun, with event horizons grown so wide across that our entire solar system, the Sun and every planet, could vanish within them many times over with room left to spare. They sit there at the hearts of galaxies like silent and ancient anchors, perfectly still, while the countless stars wheel slowly around them across all the ages, the most enormous things that exist anywhere, and the most utterly invisible, one and the same, holding 100 billion suns in their orbits with nothing at all but their patient pull. Sometimes, before matter falls at last into one of these great giants, it gathers and swirls around the black hole into a flattened, glowing disk, heated by its own friction to a fierce and dazzling brilliance. the most luminous of these spinning disks, called quasars, can shine thousands of times more brightly than an entire galaxy of stars, blazing out from the cores of distant young galaxies across very nearly the whole vast width of the observable universe. They are among the most far-flung single objects we can ever hope to see, brilliant beacons sent to us from the early cosmos, their light having first set out when the universe was only a small fraction of its present age. All that blaze pours from a region scarcely larger than our own solar system, a single swirling disk, torn and superheated as it spirals into the dark mouth at a young galaxy's heart, outshining the hundreds of billions of stars around it. When we look upon a quasar, we are receiving the fierce brilliance of a far younger and wilder sky, long since grown quiet. However slow the breath had grown, it is slower now, so deep and even that the body feels almost as though it were sinking down through the surface of the bed. Linger for a moment upon the nature of light itself, for it carries one last strangeness worth a single unhurried thought. No matter how swiftly you might somehow travel, and no matter in which direction you raced, a beam of light would always seem to pass you by at exactly the same unchanging speed. It is the one perfectly steady and reliable thing in a universe filled with endless motion, the fixed and faithful thread around which all of space and time arrange themselves. This unchanging swiftness of light is woven into the very deepest structure of reality, and from it flow all the soft distortions of time and distance the night has already shown you. Because that speed of a light is so perfectly fixed, it also serves as a kind of cosmic speed limit, the very fastest pace at which any signal, any influence, any message at all can ever travel across the void. Nothing that carries mass can quite reach it, however hard it tries, and nothing whatsoever can exceed it. And this is not a cruelty at all, but something closer to a kindness, a thing that knits the whole cosmos together into orderly cause and effect, into a coherent unfolding rather than a confusion of chaos. The light from even the most distant stars obeys this very same gentle rule as it crosses the long dark toward you, never once hurrying and never once lagging behind, faithful across billions of years to a single, steady, unchanging pace. And so the great distances of the cosmos are measured not in plain miles, which would be far too small to be of any use, but in the slow and patient travel of light itself. A single light year is simply the span that light can cross in one full turning of the year, and it stretches across nearly 6 trillion miles of empty space. The nearest stars lie only a handful of these light years away, the distant heart of our own galaxy, some 26,000 of them. The very farthest visible galaxies, billions of those 6 trillion mile spans laid end to end, each one a measure of how long a single beam of light must journey through the dark before it ever finds your eye. To feel these distances a little more gently, imagine shrinking the whole of our solar system down to the size of a quiet town. If the sun were a grapefruit set upon a table, the Earth would be a tiny grain of sand circling it some 30 feet away, and giant Jupiter, a small pebble a city block distant. And the very nearest star in that same small model would lie hundreds of miles off, across whole countries of empty space. The planets we know are huddled close together around their warm hearth, a grapefruit and a few grains of sand and pebbles on a single table, and the next nearest star waits hundreds of miles away across whole countries of empty space. Heavier still, and sinking, and the thoughts arriving more slowly now, with longer spaces opening between them. Consider, drifting, how truly empty most of the cosmos really is. The average density of all the matter spread across the entire universe is so astonishingly low that, were it somehow smoothed out perfectly evenly, there would be only a few lonely atoms floating in every cubic meter of space, far, far thinner than the very finest vacuum ever created here on Earth. The galaxies and the stars are only rare, bright gathered knots, scattered sparsely through an ocean of almost perfect and untroubled emptiness. The cosmos is, above all else, a place of immense and open room, far more silence than sound, far more soft dark than light. A few lonely atoms drifting in each wide cubic metre of the dark, and almost nothing else at all. Within all that great and open emptiness, the temperature of truly empty space is not quite nothing, but very nearly so. Far from any warming star, the deep cold of the cosmos settles down to just a few degrees above the absolute lowest temperature that can possibly exist anywhere. A faint chill maintained only by that ancient afterglow of the universe's distant beginning, the last warmth of the first dawn. It is the coldest stillness there has ever been or ever could be, a hush so utterly complete that the only warmth remaining anywhere in it is the leftover whisper of creation itself. And yet, floating gently within that vast and ancient cold, drift the warm small worlds, the rare bright fires, the precious scattered pockets of life and light. You're one of those warm pockets right now, perfectly safe and held, while the great cold keeps its distant and untroubled peace far, far away. That vast emptiness is also perfectly, completely silent, for sound itself cannot travel through it at all. Sound is only a trembling carried from one tiny piece of air to the next, and where there is no air there can be no sound, no echo, no whisper, no faintest noise of any kind. The greatest stars may blaze and the largest storms may rage on distant worlds, and yet across the open reaches of space, all of it unfolds in absolute stillness. The cosmos is the quietest place there has ever been, a silence so deep and so complete that it has held, unbroken, since the very beginning, every blaze and every storm out there raging on in total soundlessness across the open reaches of space. These thoughts can pass on through you now, grey clouds crossing a dim window at evening. The strangest distances begin to loosen their hold, the bending of time, the limit of light, the deep cold of the void, and somewhere much nearer there is warmth again, the small familiar company of worlds and moons in our own corner of the sky. There is no hurry in turning back toward them. You're already drifting there. In that nearer corner of the cosmos, our own solar system, the planets turn faithfully in their orbits around the sun, and every one of them holds its own particular wonder. Jupiter, the largest of them all by far, is a world so tremendously vast that all the other planets combined could fit comfortably inside it, with a great deal of room still left over. It is made not of solid rock, but of swirling, restless gas, an enormous striped sphere of slow storms wider in volume than 1,000 Earths set side by side. And it has watched over the inner worlds for billions of years, its enormous gravity quietly drawing in wandering comets and stray debris that might otherwise have struck the smaller planets nearer the sun. The great giant of our outer sky is, in its own silent way, a kind of patient guardian standing watch. Upon that giant world turns a single mighty storm older than any nation that has ever existed upon the earth. The great red spot is a vast swirling tempest, wide enough to swallow our entire planet whole, a colossal whirlpool of high clouds that has churned ceaselessly in Jupiter's atmosphere for many centuries at the very least, and perhaps for far longer than anyone has watched. At its rim, the winds tear along faster than any storm the Earth has ever known, and yet from a great distance the whole enormous wheel appears to hold perfectly still. A single storm that has outlasted the rise and the fall of empires here below upon the ground, turning on forever in the high cold clouds of a distant world, century after century after century, untroubled by anything we do or fail to do down here. Great as Jupiter is, the sun itself dwarfs every world of our family entirely. If you were to gather up the sun and every single planet, every moon, every comet and asteroid and grain of dust, and weigh them all together, the sun alone would account for very nearly all of it, more than 99 parts in every 100. The planets we cherish, the whole turning company of worlds, are little more than the small scattered crumbs left over from the making of the sun, drifting around the great hearth that holds almost the entire weight of our system. We live upon one of those tiny crumbs, circling a vast and steady fire that is in truth nearly the whole of everything nearby. Beyond Jupiter floats the most graceful and beautiful of all the planets, ringed about with pale and shining bands of light. Saturn's famous rings, though they span a tremendous width many times the size of the whole Earth, are nonetheless astonishingly, impossibly thin. In most places no thicker than the height of a single house. A delicate and gossamer sheet of countless icy fragments, all orbiting together in perfect and silent formation. Each separate piece, from tiny grains of frost no larger than dust to great chunks the size of a room, circles the golden planet in its own faithful and unwavering path, and all of them together form one of the loveliest sights in all the heavens. They are made almost entirely of water ice, clean and bright, which is the very reason they catch the distant sunlight so and shine. A frozen sea ground fine and spread into a halo. A vast and shining ring you could very nearly see straight through, sketched delicately around a soft golden world, its bright ice catching the far sunlight all at once. Those magnificent rings, for all their breadth and grandeur, are very likely young and fleeting things in the long reckoning of cosmic time. They may have first formed from a single shattered moon, or wandering comet only a few 100 million years ago, quite recently as the cosmos counts such things, and they will not last forever either. Slowly, grain by grain by grain, the bright ice is even now sifting down into the great planet below. We're alive at a rare and genuinely lucky moment in time, when Saturn happens to wear its rings in their fullest splendour. Long before we ever arrived, they may not have existed at all, and long after we're gone, the last of that bright ice will have fallen quietly away into the clouds below. There is a curiosity worth pausing on about that great ringed world. For all its enormous size, Saturn is made of such light and airy stuff, mostly hydrogen and helium, that it is the least dense of all the planets. So light, in fact, that if there were an ocean wide enough to hold it, the whole vast globe of Saturn would float upon the water like a wooden ball. Imagine that immense golden sphere, more than 750 Earths in volume, bobbing gently on a sea like a wooden ball, lighter than the very water that held it up, the rings still circling its waist as it floated. Feel the slow and steady rise and fall of your own breathing now, even and unhurried as a distant tide upon a shore. The moons that circle these great planets are wonders entirely in their own right, small and secretive worlds with hidden lives all their own. One of Jupiter's many moons, wrapped completely in a smooth and cracked shell of ice, very likely conceals a vast ocean of liquid water beneath its frozen surface, an ocean that may well hold more water within it than all the seas and oceans of the Earth combined together. Warmed ceaselessly from within by the constant flexing pull of its giant parent planet, that hidden and lightless sea has rolled in darkness for billions of years, its surface above it a smooth white shell scored all over with long reddish cracks, where the ice has split and frozen and split again. It is one of the few places beyond the Earth where some scientists believe life might one day be found, down in the warm dark beneath that frozen lid, never having known the light of any sun. Somewhere out in the cold outer reaches of our own solar system, an entire ocean turns beneath the ice, silent and unseen and utterly patient. Yet another of Jupiter's moons is the most volcanic world in all the solar system, dotted everywhere with hundreds of fiery mountains that throw great fountains of molten sulfur high above its surface. Squeezed and kneaded relentlessly by the powerful gravity of Jupiter and its sister moons, this small world is heated so fiercely within that it can never grow still, forever erupting in slow plumes that rise and fall against the black sky. It is a place of fire so far from the sun, painted in strange yellows and oranges, restless and glowing in the cold outer dark. The same gentle force of gravity that holds you softly to your bed can, in another place, knead a whole world until it burns. Another moon, this one circling distant and golden Saturn, is so profoundly cold that its rivers and its lakes are filled not with water at all, but with liquid methane, falling from the sky as a chemical rain out of the yellow clouds. Titan is the name of this strange and lovely place, the only moon in all our solar system to possess a thick atmosphere of its own. A hazy, amber-coloured world where showers feed wide seas of liquid gas. It is utterly alien to anything we know, and yet at the same time hauntingly familiar, with its own weather and its own winding shorelines and its own drifting clouds, a place where it truly rains, far, far out in the cold. The air there hangs so thick and the pull of gravity so light that a person fitted with a pair of broad wings could lift from the ground and fly simply by flapping them, gliding slowly above wide amber seas beneath a hazy amber sky, with methane rain falling softly somewhere along the far shore. Closer to home and to the sun turns the smallest and the swiftest of all the planets, racing around its great orbit in only 88 short days. Mercury is a world of fierce extremes, scorched and baked on the side that faces the sun, and frozen hard on the side turned away into shadow, with no thick blanket of air to soften or carry the difference between them. And yet even here, in this place of fire, in the permanent shadows of certain craters near its poles where the sunlight has never once fallen across all the ages, there appears to be ancient ice, hidden away patiently in the coldest corners of the hottest world. Its days are stranger still. Mercury circles the sun so swiftly and turns upon itself so slowly that from certain places on its surface the sun would climb part way up the sky, halt and sink briefly backward before resuming its long climb again, a sunrise that changes its mind. The cosmos seems to take a quiet delight in such paradoxes, tucking a little frost into the very burning edge of fire itself. Between Mercury and our own Earth turns the veiled world of Venus, nearly the twin of our planet in size, and yet utterly transformed beneath its thick and shining clouds. Wrapped in a heavy blanket of carbon dioxide that traps the sun's warmth, Venus has become the hottest world of all, hotter even than scorched Mercury that lies far closer to the sun, with a surface warm enough to melt lead. Its clouds, bright and beautiful from afar, are the reason it shines as the loveliest of the evening and morning stars, the brilliant lamp that has guided travellers and lovers for all of time, a world so gentle to look upon from a distance, and so fierce beneath its veil, a quiet reminder of how a thick enough blanket of air can change the whole fate of a planet. Venus keeps another quiet oddity all its own, hidden in the slowness of its turning. The planet spins so very gently upon itself that a single one of its days, one full turn beneath the sun, lasts longer than its entire year, the time it takes to circle the sun once. And stranger still, Venus turns backward compared to most of the other worlds, so that upon its hidden surface beneath those endless clouds, the sun would rise softly in the west and set again in the east. A day longer than a year, and a sun that rises in the wrong quarter of the sky. The cosmos arranges even time and direction differently from world to world, each one keeping its own slow and particular calendar. Then there is the red world, Mars, smaller and colder and quieter than our own, yet bearing across its rusty face the unmistakable marks of water that once flowed freely and abundantly across its surface long ago. Dry and ancient riverbeds wind their way across its dusty rust-coloured plains, and the faint traces of old shorelines mark out where great seas may once have lapped gently against the land. Long, long ago, it truly seems, Mars was a far wetter and gentler and kinder place, with flowing streams and standing waters beneath a thicker and warmer sky. Now it rests quiet and frozen and still, keeping the deep memory of all its lost water carefully written in the very shapes of its land. A whole world lying out there, quietly dreaming of the rivers it used to have. Upon that red and dreaming world stands the tallest mountain known anywhere in the entire solar system, a single volcano so utterly immense that it humbles every peak and summit found upon the earth. Olympus Mons rises nearly 3 full times the height of our own highest mountain, so broad and wide across its base that its gentle slopes would stretch across an entire country. and yet so gradual and so gently inclined that a traveller walking upon it might never once sense that they were climbing a mountain at all. Its summit stands so high that it reaches very nearly above the thin air of Mars altogether, into a place where the sky has gone almost to black, and a climber resting there might look down upon the faint dust and haze far below their feet. The slope is so wide and so gradual that a walker upon it would never once sense a steep climb, only a slow, endless, untiring rising, on and on toward a distant sky, across a mountain that has stood perfectly silent and unmoving for billions upon billions of years. Far out at the cold blue edge of the planets turns distant Neptune, the most remote of the great worlds, and across its deep blue face blow the fastest winds known anywhere in the solar system. There, so very far from the sun's warmth that one might expect a perfect frozen stillness, the winds instead race along at well over 1,000 miles each hour, faster than the speed of sound here on Earth, driving great dark storms across a world of methane blue cloud. It is a quiet lesson in how the cosmos can surprise us, that the coldest and most distant of worlds should hold within it the swiftest and most restless of storms, churning silently in the dim blue dark. And amid all these strange and varied worlds, it is worth pausing softly upon how rare our own Earth truly seems to be. It is, as far as we yet know, the only world anywhere with great open oceans of liquid water upon its surface, blue and shining and warm enough to wade in. The right distance from the sun, the right size to hold an atmosphere, the right slow turning and the right protecting shield. So many conditions had to fall into place, and here, on this one world out of all the worlds, they all did. From far out in space, it appears as a small pale blue marble, wrapped in white cloud, the only such blue jewel ever found in all the dark. Softer still, the mind. Slower, the breath. The limbs warm and heavy and unwilling to move at all. The planets fall behind now, with their secretive moons and bright rings and frozen rivers and still, enormous mountains. Smaller travellers wait at the edge of all that. The comets, the icy visitors that pass through our heavens once and then vanish again into the deep beyond. You need only follow them as far as the edge of sleep. Out beyond the farthest of the planets, those icy wanderers drift in countless multitudes, very far from the warmth and light of the sun. The comets, those pale and ghostly visitors trailing their long shining tails, spend nearly the whole of their long lives out in the frozen outer dark, only very occasionally falling slowly inward toward the warmth at the centre. As a comet at last nears that distant warmth, its ancient ice begins to glow and to stream away from it, wrapping the small dark core in a soft bright haze and unfurling a luminous tail that can reach across many millions of miles of space, and which always points away from the sun no matter which direction the comet itself happens to be travelling, so that on its long swing back outward, the comet runs along tail first, the streamer always combed ahead of it by the light. And for all its breathtaking length across the sky, that tail is so thin and so rarefied that the Earth itself has passed clean through one before, and no one below felt the faintest thing, a veil of light millions of miles long, emptier than the finest mist. A long tail of light, combed back by the pressure of the sunlight itself, is what we see when one of these visitors graces our sky. Some of these patient visitors travel along such enormous and far-flung loops that a single full orbit can take many thousands of years to quietly complete. A bright comet seen by human eyes on this very night might not return again to our skies until long after every language now spoken upon the earth has been forgotten entirely, swinging out into the freezing dark and then, faithfully, falling slowly back toward the light across the long ages. They are the most faithful travellers in all of creation, keeping their distant appointments separated by spans of time far longer than the whole of recorded human history. Somewhere out in the deep cold, even at this very moment, a comet is already beginning its slow and silent fall back towards some far future sun. Far beyond even the usual haunts of the comets, astronomers now believe that there lies a truly vast and spherical cloud of icy bodies surrounding the entire solar system on every side, reaching nearly a quarter of the whole way to the very nearest star. The Oort cloud, it is called, a faint and unimaginably distant shell of countless frozen worldlets, so very far away from us that the sun itself, seen from out there, would appear as little more than one more bright star scattered among the others. It is the true and gentle outermost edge of our own sun's quiet domain, a soft and frozen boundary marking the place where our small and familiar system finally gives way at last to the wider dark beyond. The reach of our sun is far, far greater than the planets alone would ever suggest. Out through all that frozen distance, 2 small spacecraft sent from the Earth long ago are still quietly travelling, the farthest things our hands have ever made. After journeys of many decades, they have at last passed beyond the great bubble of solar wind that the sun blows out around itself, crossing into the true space between the stars. They carry with them a golden record, a gentle message of music and greeting spoken in dozens of human tongues, the sound of rain, the song of a whale, a child's laughter, all sealed and patient in case some far future traveller should ever find it drifting in the dark. Out there, beyond the reach of any wind or weather to wear them down, those small craft may well outlast the Earth itself, sailing on for billions of years. Even now they go silently onward, our quiet hellos to the wider cosmos, growing more distant with every passing hour, yet never truly lost. The breath settles now into its deepest and slowest rhythm, rising and falling like something very far away. Closer in toward home, in the wide gap between Mars and Jupiter, lies a broad belt of tumbling rocky fragments, the leftover and unused building blocks of a planet that somehow never quite managed to form. The asteroid belt holds many hundreds of thousands of these rocky bodies, and yet, despite their great number, they are spread so thinly and so sparsely across that enormous ring of empty space that a traveller passing directly through the belt would very likely see not a single one of them anywhere nearby. The crowded and cluttered asteroid fields of our imagination are, in plain truth, a place of enormous and echoing emptiness, each separate rock turning alone in its own wide and silent stretch of dark, miles of vacant space falling away on every side of it. Among all those slowly tumbling fragments, the very largest one is round enough and great enough that it has earned the right to be called a small world entirely of its own. Ceres, a modest sphere of mingled rock and ice, is the biggest single object found anywhere in the whole asteroid belt, and it may well hold a quantity of frozen water locked beneath its old and battered surface, perhaps even faint traces of salty brine slowly seeping upward from somewhere below. When a small craft from the Earth at last drew near, it found bright pale spots gleaming in the shadowed floors of certain craters, deposits of salt left behind by that rising water, shining like little pools of light in a face of grey stone. Ceres turns there as the quiet queen of that whole rubble-strewn realm, a tiny round world some 600 miles across, keeping its own slow company among all the wreckage, its salt-bright craters catching the faraway sun. Far past distant Neptune, the outermost of the great planets, lies another such surprising world, demoted long ago in name but no less genuinely lovely for it. Pluto, small and remote and bound up in deep ice, turns out upon close inspection to be a place of real and unexpected beauty, with tall mountains carved from frozen water, broad plains of nitrogen ice that flow and creep along like glaciers, and a faint blue haze hanging in its very thin sky. It moves through the cold outer dark so far from the sun that a single one of its long years lasts longer than 2 whole centuries here upon the Earth. And across one whole face of its surface, shaped purely by chance, spreads a great pale plain of nitrogen ice in the unmistakable form of a heart, turning slowly out there in the cold 2 centuries from one of its birthdays to the next. There is nowhere at all you need to be now, drifting, and nothing whatsoever the night requires of you but to rest. Pluto belongs to a whole vast frozen realm lying out beyond Neptune, a wide and scattered ring of icy bodies that astronomers have named the Kuiper Belt, strewn across with countless small and ancient worlds left over from the very dawn of the solar system. They are the pristine and barely changed remnants of our own deep origins, drifting slowly and quietly through the cold, exactly as they have for well over 4 billion years, untouched and undisturbed. To carefully study even one of them is to look directly back upon the very materials from which all the planets, including our own, were first patiently made. The outer dark is a vast and silent museum, keeping the very oldest pieces of all carefully safe. From those frozen and ancient archives of the outer dark, let your gentle thoughts return for a moment now to the warmer worlds, the places where warmth and water might meet and mingle. In recent years, astronomers have discovered something quietly wonderful: that planets beyond our own solar system are not rare or unusual at all, but in fact remarkably common. So common, it now seems, that on average very nearly every single star scattered across the night sky is thought to host at least one world of its very own. The galaxy is not, after all, a lonely scattering of solitary suns, but rather a vast and crowded garden of planets, billions upon billions of them, turning quietly around their stars across the whole great sweep of the cosmic web. The sky is far fuller of worlds than anyone in earlier ages ever once dared to dream. It is a gentle wonder, too, how we have come to find these distant worlds at all, for they are far too faint and too close to their dazzling stars to see directly. Most often, we find them by patiently watching for the tiniest of shadows. When a planet happens to pass between its star and our waiting instruments, it blocks the smallest sliver of that starlight, dimming it by a fraction so slight it would never be noticed by the eye. By watching thousands of stars at once, year after year, and catching those faint and rhythmic dips of light, we have found planet after planet after planet, each betrayed only by a shadow no larger than a passing breath. We have learned to feel the presence of unseen worlds simply by the soft flicker of a distant light. Some of those distant and far-flung worlds are stranger and more wondrous than any story ever told beside a fire. There are planets out there where the temperatures climb so impossibly high that the very clouds may be formed of vaporized rock or of glittering shining metal, and where the howling winds blow so fiercely and so swiftly that they might well carry a sideways rain of molten glass streaking across the burning sky. Others may be vast and endless oceans with no land at all anywhere upon them, or worlds wrapped forever in unbroken storms, or planets orbiting so impossibly close to their stars that a single one of their years lasts only a few short hours. The cosmos invents far more kinds of worlds than the human mind could ever begin to guess, each one of them turning faithfully in its own distant and particular light. And some of those countless and uncounted planets drift in the temperate band around their parent stars, where water could perhaps remain liquid upon their surface, neither boiling away entirely nor freezing solid into ice. This welcoming band is sometimes called the habitable zone, the place where the conditions are simply right. We do not know, and cannot yet say, whether any of these particular worlds truly hold seas, or falling rain, or any living thing at all. We know only that the conditions there might allow it, that the door, at the very least, has been left open. Across the billions upon billions of stars in the galaxy, there may well be a great many worlds where rivers run and oceans turn beneath an open sky. The thought need be no more than a simple comfort tonight. We are very likely not the only living shore in all of that immense dark. There is a heaviness in the body now, a good and welcome weight, and the mind moves like deep, unhurried water. The frozen edges of our system lie behind, and so do the countless waiting worlds beyond them. What remains is larger and slower than any of it, the long breathing of the cosmos itself, in and out across spans of time too vast for the mind to hold. Let that breathing carry you down toward the threshold of rest. That slow breathing of the cosmos began, as far back as anyone has ever been able to trace it, in a single and unimaginable beginning. Everything that now exists anywhere, all the galaxies, all the light, all the very space itself in which they float, seems to have emerged together out of an extraordinarily hot and dense state nearly 14 billion years ago, and to have been expanding and steadily cooling ever since that first moment. The cosmos was not always so vast and cold and scattered through with distant stars. It began instead small and warm and perfectly smooth, and it has been slowly and gently unfolding into all its present grandeur across every age since. You are living this very night within a long and slow blossoming that first began before time as we know it had taken on any shape at all. In the very first instance of that ancient beginning, long before there were any stars or even any atoms at all, the young cosmos is thought to have expanded outward with truly astonishing swiftness, doubling and redoubling in size again and again within the very smallest sliver of an instant. This sudden early stretching, gentle and lovely to softly consider, though violent in the cold fact of it, smoothed out the young cosmos evenly, and set the deep pattern for everything that would ever follow after, much like the first long, deep breath drawn in before a slow and easy exhale. From that brief and ancient swelling came the great evenness of our sky, the uniform warmth we now find pouring in from every direction at once, the wide and level stage upon which all the later wonders would in time unfold. For a long while after that beginning, the cosmos held no stars at all, and no light yet to see by, only a dark and slowly cooling fog of simple gas drifting through the freshly made space. This long and quiet age, lasting before the very first stars ever kindled, is sometimes called the cosmic dark ages, a long hushed and patient interval of gathering, during which gravity slowly and tirelessly drew the scattered gas together in the deep blackness. Then, at last, after that long waiting, the first stars ignited into being, and light returned to the cosmos for the very first time in all its history. There was an age of darkness, complete and starless, and then there came a first true dawn, and we ourselves are the distant and grateful children of that returning light. Slower yet the breath, and wider the spaces opening between your thoughts. Those very first stars of all were quite unlike any of the stars that shine down upon us today. Born only from the simplest of gas, with none of the heavier elements that all later stars would one day inherit from them, they grew to truly enormous sizes and burned with a fierce blue-white brilliance, living brief and dazzling and generous lives. And it was these very first great giants that forged the earliest of the heavier elements deep within themselves, and then scattered them outward into space when they died, beginning the long, slow enrichment that would one day make planets and oceans and living bodies possible at all. The first lights of the cosmos were also its very first makers, quietly seeding the dark with the raw stuff of everything that was ever yet to come. Across the vast and uncountable spans of cosmic time, whole generations of stars have lived and burned and died in their turn, each one of them enriching the drifting gas a little further, each new generation built up slowly from the scattered remains of the last. Our own sun is perhaps a third-generation star, kindled into life out of a cloud already gently salted with the fine ashes of two earlier rounds of stellar living and dying. We arrived, all of us, rather late to a very long and patient story, the fortunate inheritors of countless quiet endings, our whole world carefully assembled from the freely given gifts of stars that shone and faded long before we came. To be so late a chapter, written entirely from the substance of all that came before, is its own kind of gratitude, soft as a debt one is glad to owe. And that same rhythm of birth continues even now, this very night, for new stars are still being born across all the galaxies even as the old ones fade away. Within the great glowing clouds, gravity still patiently gathers the drifting gas into fresh new suns, and somewhere out in the sky tonight, even as you rest, a new star is taking its very first breath of light. The cosmos is not at all a finished and completed thing, not a closed book or a room with its door shut. It remains an ongoing and living creation, still kindling new fires out in the dark. The very same process that first lit the earlier stars is unfolding still, ceaseless and tireless, a renewal hidden beneath the apparent stillness of the night sky. Notice now how completely and how deeply the body is relaxed, how very little weight there seems to be left to anything at all. The very largest structures in all of the cosmos are almost too vast and too grand for the imagination ever to truly hold, and so you may simply let them all pass on by, like distant and silent weather glimpsed through a darkening window. There exist out there enormous walls and great superclusters of galaxies, stretching unbroken across hundreds of millions of light-years of space, the very grandest patterns that nature has ever drawn anywhere. These vast formations are so tremendously large that light itself, swift as it is, takes many millions of years simply to cross from one side of them to the other. And yet, when seen on the very largest scale of all, the cosmos somehow appears very nearly the same in every single direction, evenly scattered, gently and smoothly uniform, grander far beyond all measure, and yet as smooth and calm as still water, when at last it is seen whole. Within that grand and unexpected smoothness lie the great cosmic voids, the vast and empty bubbles of darkness resting between the luminous filaments of the cosmic web. Some of these silent hollows span hundreds of millions of light-years across, with scarcely a single galaxy to be found anywhere inside them, immense regions of almost perfect emptiness and unbroken silence. If you were somehow set down at the very heart of one of these great voids, the nearest galaxies of all would lie so impossibly far away that the entire sky around you might appear very nearly black, a hollow shell of pure darkness stretching away on every side, broken only by the faintest scattering of the most distant light, the deepest desert the cosmos holds anywhere within itself. That great vastness can be a comfort to you now, rather than any kind of weight. Our own small galaxy belongs to a modest and friendly gathering of galaxies, bound loosely together by their shared gravity, which astronomers have fondly named the local group. It holds within it our own galaxy and the great spiral of Andromeda, along with a few dozen smaller companion galaxies, all of them drifting along together through the larger surrounding dark. And this whole local group, in its turn, lies out near the edge of a far greater assembly still, a vast supercluster of many thousands of galaxies, all flowing slowly together toward a distant common centre. A galaxy within a small group within a great supercluster within the wider web. A home nested inside homes, each one drifting along inside the next. A tender strangeness is woven into the very shape of space. Because great masses bend the fabric of space around them, the light from a distant galaxy, passing close by some vast cluster on its long way to us, is curved and focused as though through an invisible lens of glass. We can sometimes see a single far-off galaxy smeared into long glowing arcs, or even multiplied into several soft images strung around the cluster, all because its light has bent around the unseen mass lying between. The cosmos lends us a lens made of gravity itself, letting us glimpse faint and ancient galaxies, bent into rings and arcs of light that we could never otherwise have seen at all. This same bending of space once opened a view deeper into the dark than ever before, one simply by staring patiently at almost nothing at all. A great telescope was pointed at a tiny patch of seemingly empty black sky, no larger than a grain of sand held at arm's length, and left to gather its faint light for days on end, and the emptiness turned out not to be empty in the slightest. It was filled instead with thousands upon thousands of distant galaxies, each one a city of billions of suns, crowded into a speck of sky no one had thought to look at twice. Wherever the looking goes deep enough, the dark gives up its hidden multitudes. There is no truly empty direction anywhere. There are only galaxies too faint and too far to have yet been noticed. Heavy now, the eyes, perhaps already closed, and the mind drifting free of any single anchoring thought. From the first warm instant of beginning all the way up to the grandest structures of all, That long road is behind you. The mysteries that come next are gentler and nearer, the small wonders of light and colour and slow motion that fill the same sky you have always known. Nearest of them all is the simple turning of the Earth itself, the very thing that gives us our day and our night. The Earth spins steadily beneath us at a constant and unwavering pace, carrying us all smoothly out of the darkness into the light and then back again into shadow. And at the equator, that great turning sweeps the surface along at well over 1,000 miles in every single hour. And yet we feel absolutely none of it, not the faintest hint, for everything all around us turns smoothly along together with it. The air itself, the rolling seas, the trees, our own resting bodies. We are spinning through space at a truly tremendous speed, even as we lie here perfectly and peacefully still. At the equator, the ground itself races eastward faster than the speed of sound, carrying cities and oceans and sleeping bodies along with it, and the only outward sign of all that motion is the steady travel of the sun across the day and the silent wheeling of the stars across the night. The Earth does very much more than merely spin upon itself. It also races endlessly along its great orbit around the sun at a truly astonishing and almost unbelievable pace, sweeping through the dark of space at some 67,000 miles in every hour. In the short time it takes you to draw a single, slow and easy breath, the whole planet has already carried you many hundreds of miles farther along its vast and curving path through the void. And yet the motion is so perfectly smooth, so utterly free of any jolt or sway or sudden lurch, that the very fastest journey you will ever take in all your life feels exactly and precisely like resting still. You are hurtling onward through the cosmos at this very moment, faster than any arrow, and the felt sensation of it is nothing but perfect, peaceful, unbroken stillness. Even the sun itself, the great steady anchor of our days, is not truly still, but carries its whole gathered family of planets along on an immense and stately voyage around the distant centre of the galaxy, moving along at well over 100 miles in every single second. You're riding upon this swift and utterly silent current through the deep galactic dark, one small and bright world among a caravan of them all sweeping along together, and the entire galaxy in its turn sweeps onward through the wider cosmos, and the cosmos itself goes on expanding. The bed turning 1,000 miles an hour with the spinning Earth, the Earth racing tens of thousands more around the sun 100 miles a second around the galaxy itself streaming through the dark, motion folded within motion, and you in the middle of every wheel of it, lying perfectly still. And the whole of our galaxy, with everything inside it, is itself drifting through the cosmos at a remarkable pace. Measured against that ancient afterglow that fills all of space, our galaxy and everything it holds are sweeping along at hundreds of miles each second, drawn toward a distant and immense gathering of galaxies far across the sky. We do not feel this great motion, and we never will, yet the whole galaxy and every world inside it are forever falling, slowly and silently, hundreds of miles every second, toward a faraway pull so distant we can barely even name it. The breath grows slow and full and easy now. The moon, our own constant and faithful companion through the dark, holds a quiet secret all its own. It always shows us exactly the same face, and never once turns its far side toward the Earth at all. Over the long, slow ages, the patient tug of our own planet's gravity has gradually slowed the moon's spin until it now turns precisely once for each single circle it makes around us, keeping one whole hemisphere forever toward the Earth and one whole hemisphere forever hidden away from our sight. The familiar and beloved face of the moon, with its soft grey seas and its bright pale highlands, is the only side that any of our distant ancestors ever once saw, the very same unchanging countenance gazing quietly down across the whole long span of human history. That same faithful and familiar moon is, little by little and year by year, easing away from us. With each passing year it moves a small distance farther out from the Earth, widening its great orbit by about the same width as a few fingernails growing. Across the vast spans of cosmic time, this slow parting means that the moon once hung much closer to us and far larger in the ancient sky than it does tonight, and that it will one day, in the distant future, appear noticeably smaller than it does now. But the change is so unimaginably slow that across the whole of a single human life it remains utterly imperceptible, a hand's breadth of retreat across 10,000 years, the great pale disk shrinking by no more than the growth of a fingernail with every turning of the year. There is a happy and entirely lovely accident woven into our own sky, well worth a single soft moment of gentle wonder. The moon is very nearly 400 times smaller across than the great sun, and yet by pure chance it sits about 400 times closer to us than the sun does, so that the two of them appear almost exactly the very same size when we look up at them in the sky. This is the quiet reason why, on certain rare and precious occasions, the moon can slide perfectly and completely across the bright face of the sun and cover it entirely, briefly revealing the sun's faint and pearly outer glow to the watching world. No law of nature anywhere requires this gentle and beautiful coincidence. It simply happens by chance to be exactly so, in this particular age, upon this particular world. We are only the lucky and grateful witnesses to a fleeting and lovely alignment. Feel the heaviness settling now in your warm limbs, the welcome weight, the steady and unbroken rhythm of your easy breath. The tides that rise and fall again along every shore of the earth are among the moon's oldest gifts to us, the pull of its distant gravity drawing the great oceans toward it as the whole earth turns beneath them. Twice each day the slow waters swell up and then recede again, a ceaseless planetary breathing shaped entirely by a single world 250,000 miles away. The ocean rises in a low broad bulge that follows the moon around the turning globe, and a second bulge swells on the far side at the very same time, so that every coast is lifted and lowered twice between one dawn and the next. The very same force that holds the moon in its long orbit reaches all the way down across that gulf to lift the seas, and so the rhythm of the tides is, in truth, the rhythm of two whole worlds turning forever around one another. The moon is breathing with the oceans, even now, even tonight. The gentle moon does one more quiet kindness for us, steadying the very tilt of our world. The earth leans a little on its axis as it circles the sun, and it is this small and faithful tilt that gives us all our seasons, the long warm days of summer when our part of the world leans toward the light, the soft short days of winter when it leans away. The moon's steady presence helps to hold that tilt gently in place, keeping our seasons mild and regular across the long ages, rather than wild and wandering. The turning of the year, the falling leaves and the first warm mornings of spring all flow from a single gentle lean, kept steady by a faithful companion 250,000 miles away. The rolling of those distant tides can become, for a while, the very rhythm of your own breath. The tender colours of the sky at dawn and again at dusk arise from a simple and lovely trick of the air itself, nothing more. Pure sunlight is in truth woven together out of every colour there is, and as that white light passes down through the atmosphere, the shorter blue waves within it scatter most strongly in every direction at once, painting the whole daytime sky its familiar shade of blue. But at the close of the day, with the low light now travelling a much longer slanting path through far more air, all those blues are scattered away and lost entirely, leaving only the reds and golds to burn across the wide horizon. The colours of every evening are simply ordinary sunlight, sifted and sorted by the air, the most ordinary light there is, made briefly and quietly extraordinary, still now and wide and open. That is how the mind has become. The earth turns, the moon keeps its faithful orbit, the colours of the sky shift from blue to gold, and those motions have settled in you like a slow tide. And the same sky holds fainter visitors still, the glows and shimmers and silent shooting stars that have watched over sleepers for as long as there have been sleepers at all. The shooting stars among them are far smaller and gentler things than their sudden brilliance would ever lead you to believe. A shooting star is most often no larger at all than a single grain of sand, or perhaps a small loose pebble, a tiny fragment of ancient rock or fine comet dust, falling swiftly into the upper atmosphere and glowing white-hot from the friction of its brief and headlong passage through the air. That bright and startling streak across the dark night is in truth only the short, luminous farewell of a single speck of cosmic dust, quietly burning itself entirely away high above the sleeping world. The most beautiful sudden flashes in all the sky are made by the very smallest of things imaginable, and they leave nothing behind them at all but a moment of pure wonder. And the rain of cosmic dust never truly stops, even on the most ordinary of nights. Each and every day, many tons of fine dust and tiny particles from space drift down through our air and settle upon the world, far too small to be seen or felt. It gathers on rooftops and in fields, in the rain and in the sea, a constant and silent sifting down of the cosmos onto the earth. Some of the dust upon your windowsill, some of the fine grains in the soil of a garden, first came drifting in from the spaces between the planets. The sky is always, very quietly, falling upon us, and we live beneath a ceaseless snow of ancient dust. On certain nights of each passing year, the Earth in its orbit passes directly through the faint dusty trail left drifting behind by some ancient comet, and then those scattered streaks of light become a rain falling from the sky. These meteor showers arrive faithfully with the turning seasons, the planets sweeping through the very same ancient debris year after year after year, and in the darkest hours dozens of glowing streaks may cross the sky in a single hour. Every one of them is a tiny fleck of some old and long-departed comet, finally meeting the Earth at last after drifting alone for ages. The sky offers up these showers like a kind of clockwork, a recurring and faithful gift for anyone who cares to lie back and simply watch. Now and then a larger fragment survives its fiery fall and reaches the ground intact, and these meteorites carry within them a story older than the world itself. Many of the stones that drift down to us formed in the earliest days of the solar system, before the Earth had even finished gathering itself together, and so to hold one is to hold something more ancient than the very planet beneath you. Within some of them lie tiny grains of stardust older still, specks that formed in other stars, long before our sun was born, and that have drifted through space ever since. A small dark stone fallen quietly into a field can be a fragment of a vanished sun, older than the Earth, older than the sun, a traveller from the deep past come gently to rest in the grass. It may be too that the very water in our oceans arrived in part from such icy visitors long ago. In the young and violent days of the early Earth, countless comets and watery fragments fell upon the New World, and some scientists believe they helped to fill the seas and to bring the simple ingredients from which life would one day rise. If this is so, then the rain that falls and the rivers that run, and the very tears we shed may carry within them water that first drifted in from the cold edges of the solar system. The seas themselves may be in part a gift quietly delivered from the distant dark, long before anyone was here to receive it. The shimmering lights that dance near the frozen poles of the Earth are a wonder of an entirely different kind, a rippling curtain of pure colour folding silently across the high northern and southern skies. The auroras are born in the moments when streams of fine particles flung out from the sun finally meet the Earth's invisible magnetic shield and pour down toward the poles, setting the thin upper air aglow in shifting shades of green and red and violet. They fold and ripple like luminous silk hung loosely across the night, a gift from the distant sun painted upon our very own sky. The Earth is not alone in wearing them either. The great ringed worlds far out in the cold flicker with auroras of their own, vast curtains of light crowning planets where no eye has ever been to watch. Far above the empty polar lands the air itself is glowing, and the whole spectacle unfolds across the heavens without ever making the faintest sound. With each breath, the body softens further into the gathered warmth around you. The whole of the earth is wrapped about in that very same invisible magnetic shield, a vast field reaching far out into the surrounding space, and it tirelessly guards the entire world from much of the sun's harsher and more dangerous streaming. Were it not there at all, the steady solar wind might slowly have stripped away our precious air over the long ages, much as it seems in fact to have done to poor red Mars across its own history. This unseen and silent shelter, generated endlessly by the slow churning of molten iron deep within the Earth's own hidden heart, has quietly helped to keep our whole planet livable and green across billions of patient years. We rest here tonight beneath an invisible canopy, woven faithfully by the slow turning of the world's own deep and molten core. High above that protective magnetic shelter, the warm familiar sky fades away into the cold of open space, with no sharp line or sudden boundary anywhere between the two. The bright blue of the day thins out gradually with increasing height, until at last the air grows far too sparse to scatter any sunlight at all, and the blackness of the cosmos begins. There is no wall there, no boundary at all that one could ever reach out and touch, only an entirely gradual fading from the warm and living air below into the clear and silent dark above. The very edge of the sky is not a closing door, but a slow dissolving, the familiar world simply thinning away into the patient night that waits above us all. And that warm, sheltering air, which holds all of life so close, is far thinner than we ever tend to imagine. The breathable layer of our atmosphere is only a few miles deep, a fragile skin of air no thicker against the great round earth than the dew that clings to the skin of an apple. All the clouds, all the weather, every bird that has ever flown and every breath you have ever drawn, all of it happens within that thin film of air. Only a few miles of it stand between the warm world and the cold black vacuum above, a skin of breath no deeper against the great round earth than a film of dew on an apple, and you are drawing it slowly in and out even now. Notice now how the thoughts arrive more slowly still, with longer and ever gentler pauses opening softly between each one. Beyond that gently fading sky, the light from all the distant stars travels for so very long to reach us at last that the familiar patterns we see overhead at night are, in a real sense, a gathering together of many entirely different ages all at once. The various stars within any single constellation lie at wildly and enormously different distances from us, their separate light each having left them at a different time across history, so that one single familiar shape in the sky may in fact be woven together out of beams that first set out toward us thousands of years apart. The constellations are not true groupings at all then, but only gentle and lovely illusions of nearness, chance arrangements of scattered lights that have happened to travel to us across very different stretches of the deep past. Though the heavens seem to brim with countless stars on a clear and moonless night, the number our eyes can truly see is gentler than it appears. From the darkest place on Earth, far from every lamp and city glow, only a few thousand stars are visible to the unaided eye at any one time, every single one of them a near neighbour within our own galaxy. All the trillions beyond, all the distant suns of other galaxies melt together into the faintest of glows or vanish entirely from sight. The night that feels so full is showing you only the closest handful of a number beyond all counting. What we see is lovely and small and near, and the rest rests quietly out of reach. And among those few thousand points, a handful are not stars at all, but our neighbouring planets, catching and reflecting the sun's light. The ancient watchers noticed that these few bright lights wandered slowly against the fixed patterns, drifting from night to night, and so they named them wanderers, which is all the word planet has ever meant. Those gentle wandering lamps were among the first wonders any human ever puzzled over, looking up just as you are tonight. And even those ancient and familiar shapes are imperceptibly changing with the ages, for every single star is itself in constant motion through the galaxy. Over tens of thousands of years, the very patterns that our distant ancestors first named and loved will drift apart and warp themselves into entirely new forms. The Great Hunter and the Bright Wheel and the long ladle of stars all losing their remembered shapes. The night sky is not, after all, a fixed and eternal thing, but flows ever so slowly, like a great wide river seen across whole ages rather than mere passing moments. The stars themselves are quiet travellers, and the shapes they happen to make tonight are only a single still frame caught from a dance that lasts far longer than any civilization ever could. There is one star, though, that seems to hold almost perfectly still while all the others wheel slowly around it through the night. The northern pole star sits very nearly above the Earth's spinning axis, and so, as our world turns beneath the sky, that single, faithful light appears to stay fixed in its place while the whole heavens circle gently around it. For countless ages it has guided travellers and sailors home through the dark, the one steady point in a turning sky, and yet even it will not hold that place forever, for the Earth slowly wobbles like a spinning top across many thousands of years, and other stars will take their turn as the gentle pole. For now, though, it keeps its quiet watch, a still and steady lamp at the top of the turning night. Heavy eyes, slow and even breath, and the warm dark gathering close around you. What is left to consider is the largest thing of all, the quiet truths about time and distance, and your own small but precious place within the vastness. They settle over you like a final blanket and carry you at last toward rest. The first of those truths is that the night sky you look up into is a kind of time machine, showing many different pasts at once within a single upward glance. The moon you see overhead is only a little over a second old in the light that reaches you. The sun, a full 8 minutes, the very nearest stars, a few short years, the most far-flung galaxies, billions upon billions of years deep into the vanished past. To simply look up at the heavens at all is to gather every one of those countless ages together into one single quiet and effortless view, the recent and the unimaginably ancient woven gently together across the dark. The sky overhead is the very deepest archive there is anywhere, and it lies open and waiting above you on every single night of your life. Because of this strange property of light, the most distant galaxies that we are able to see at all are shown to us not as they truly are right now, but instead exactly as they were back when the cosmos itself was still young. Their faint light has travelled toward us for so very long that we behold those great galaxies still in their distant infancy, small and only just forming, billions of years before the present moment in which you now rest. We can never once see them as they actually are today, and by the time their own present light at last reaches some far future observer in some distant age, our own present moment, this very night, will already have become for them a piece of deep and unreachable ancient history. Our greatest telescopes are, in their quiet way, the finest time machines we have ever built. By gathering the faintest and most ancient light, stretched and reddened across billions of years, our newest instruments can now catch sight of galaxies as they appeared when the cosmos was only a few 100 million years old. The very first generation of galaxies, just beginning to glow in the early dark. Each new and more patient eye we turn upon the sky reaches a little further back toward that first dawn, and the deeper we look, the younger the cosmos we behold. We are slowly, gently learning to see almost all the way back to the beginning of everything, simply by sitting quietly in the dark and waiting for the oldest light to arrive. Even the very elements that make up the whole familiar world quietly tell their own long story of patient cosmic age. The hydrogen woven into every single drop of water everywhere was formed in the very first few minutes after the great beginning of the cosmos, nearly 14 billion years ago, and it has existed, entirely unchanged, ever since that ancient morning. Each and every time you lift a glass of cool water to drink, you are in truth tasting something very nearly as old as the universe itself. Hydrogen made minutes after the beginning of all things, that has since drifted through stars and clouds and ancient oceans across the whole long sweep of time before pooling, just for this brief moment, in your own waiting hand. Let the breath grow slower yet now, and softer and easier still. Our own sun and our own small earth lie at no special or privileged place at all within the vast cosmos, neither at its centre nor anywhere near its edge, for the cosmos taken as a whole has no true centre and no true edge to it anywhere. Every single observer, standing anywhere at all among the countless galaxies, would always see themselves resting at the very heart of their own observable sphere, with everything else gently drifting away from them on every side. There is no one privileged place out there, no true and final middle to it all, only countless gentle centres scattered everywhere, each single one of them just as valid and just as real as the next. You're resting at the very centre of your own entire universe tonight, and so too is everyone, everywhere, all at once. And there is a great and shared peace in that belonging, a sense that the middle of everything is simply wherever each of us happens to lie down. And the great expansion that carries all the galaxies apart from one another is not truly a motion of things moving through space at all, but rather a stretching of the very space itself, a subtle distinction well worth a single thought before sleep. The galaxies are not flying outward into some empty and waiting room beyond them. Rather, the room itself is growing larger, with fresh new space appearing all the time between them as the long ages pass. Imagine a scattering of small dots painted upon the surface of a balloon, as it is ever so slowly inflated, each single dot drawing away from all the others, though not one of them ever actually moves across the surface at all. The cosmos grows always from within itself, everywhere at once and all at the same time, with no outside place at all for it to grow into. And this stretching of space leaves its mark upon the very light that crosses it. As a beam of light travels toward us across the widening cosmos, the space it moves through stretches the light along with it, lengthening its waves and shifting its colour toward the red. The farther a galaxy lies from us, the more its light has been drawn out this way, glowing a little redder the deeper into the past we look. By reading that reddening, astronomers can tell how far away a galaxy is and how long its light has wandered to reach us. The expanding cosmos writes its own age directly into the colour of every distant light, a signature that any patient watcher can learn to read. There is a tender thought, too, in the far and distant future of all this stretching. Because the cosmos expands ever faster, the most remote galaxies are slowly slipping beyond the edge of what we could ever see, their light at last stretched too far and too faint to reach us. In time, unimaginably far ahead, the night skies of some future world may hold only their own handful of nearby galaxies, all the rest of the deep cosmos beyond having slipped away over the horizon, too far stretched and too faint ever to be seen again. The grand view we are looking up into tonight quietly emptying itself, galaxy by galaxy, across the long ages still to come. Notice now that there is truly nothing left at all for you to do, nowhere left to go, only this warm and softly gathering rest all around you. The very most distant light that we could ever possibly receive comes to us from a time when the young cosmos first became clear and cool enough for light to travel freely through it. That very moment of the ancient afterglow we gently touched upon together long ago near the beginning of the night. Before that distant moment, the young cosmos was far too hot and too dense, a thick and glowing fog through which no light could ever pass. That faint background warmth is therefore the very outermost edge of everything that can ever be seen, a soft wall of ancient light quietly marking out the final limit of all our possible observation. Beyond it lies a darkness that no telescope ever built will pierce, the gentle and patient horizon of all our knowing. So heavy now, the body and the mind gone slow and wide and untroubled. The limits of sight are nearly reached, and the limits of time as well. There is little farther anyone could look. Only a last small handful of wonders remains, and they will carry you the final distance down into sleep. There is nothing ahead of you now but rest, and these few quiet thoughts to ease you the rest of the way there. Among those very last and gentlest of thoughts is the strange and lovely truth that the cosmos is mostly transparent, mostly empty, and yet at the very same time woven through everywhere with a faint and steady and gentle glow. Far beyond all the bright individual stars and galaxies, the entire whole of space is gently bathed in the leftover light of the great beginning, together with the combined faint shine of all the countless galaxies far too distant to ever be told apart. Even the very darkest single patch of empty night sky, if only you could somehow gather up and add together enough of its faint light, holds within it a soft and perfectly uniform glimmer. The night is never ever truly black at all. It is only ever very, very dim, lit faintly from one edge clear to the other by the gathered and ancient light of absolutely everything there is. There is a very old question, lovely and strange, hidden within the simple matter of why the night sky should be dark at all. If the cosmos were truly infinite in size and entirely unchanging and eternally old without any beginning, then every single line of sight from your eye should eventually fall upon the bright surface of some distant star or another, and so the whole of the night sky everywhere ought to blaze as brilliantly as the sun itself. That it plainly does not do so, that the night instead remains so dark and deeply restful, tells us something genuinely profound, that the cosmos had a true beginning in time, and that it is steadily expanding, so that the light of the most distant things has either not yet had time to arrive, or else has been stretched far too faint along the way for us to see. The very darkness of the night is itself an ancient message about the age and the slow growth of all things. That soft truth can settle over you now. The stars themselves, for all their seeming changelessness and permanence, are in fact vastly outnumbered across the whole sweep of cosmic time by the long, empty stretches of darkness that came before their burning and that will follow long after. Most of all the stars that will ever exist anywhere have not yet even been born into the dark, and the universe itself, in all its great work of star-making, is in truth still really quite young. We live near the bright morning of the cosmos, in its first rich golden age of light, and across the unimaginable depths of the future yet to come, new suns will go on kindling themselves into being for many trillions of years still ahead, long after our own sun has at last faded down into a cooling ember. The breath moves so easily now, so deep and unhurried, each one slower than the last. Across the entire great sweep of the whole cosmos, from the smallest grain of drifting stardust to the largest unbroken wall of distant galaxies, the very same laws of nature hold true everywhere, exactly and faithfully the same. The familiar gravity that holds you so safely down against your bed tonight is the very same force that bends the long orbits of the most far-flung worlds and shapes the whole vast cosmic web across all of space. The warm light that touches your face is the very same kind of light that has travelled to us from the outermost edge of the observable sphere. One order runs through all of it, a single quiet rule woven through everything that is, binding the very near and the impossibly far together into one seamless and unbroken whole. And within all of that vast and unified and ordered cosmos, life itself appears to be a truly rare and tender and precious thing, a single delicate flowering set down in the very midst of an endless sea of stone and fire and bitter cold. As far as we yet know anywhere, with all our patient looking, the Earth remains the only single place where the ancient matter of the cosmos has somehow woken up enough and grown complex enough to begin to wonder quietly about its own self. The very same atoms that were forged long ago in the hearts of distant stars have gathered together here, on this one small and ordinary world, into living beings who can lift their eyes upward and feel a genuine and gentle awe. You are, in the truest sense, the cosmos itself grown quiet and warm and softly aware, resting peacefully now beneath the very same stars that long ago first made you. Let the eyes stay closed and easy now, the body still and warm, the mind freely adrift upon the dark. There is one wonder left, the largest of them all, a single thought to carry you fully down into sleep, and after it the kind night will close around you on its own, like a tide rising slowly up a quiet shore. Here then, is the final secret of the night, the gentlest and yet the largest of them all. In all the immense vastness the dark has opened tonight, the 2 trillion shining galaxies, the uncountable trillions of distant stars, the silent voids and the luminous webs of light, the billions upon billions of years of patient unfolding, in all that overwhelming immensity there is, as far as anyone has ever found anywhere, only one single place where the universe has somehow learned at last to look back upon its own self and to feel a quiet wonder. And you yourself are a living part of that single, precious, fragile awakening. The very atoms that once drifted out from dying stars, that floated alone for untold ages in the deep cold dark, that gathered themselves slowly together into this one warm and breathing world, have arranged themselves, in you, into something that can gaze up at the whole of the night and be genuinely moved by all its quiet beauty. This is perhaps the single most remarkable fact in all of the observable universe, that within so very much silence and emptiness and ancient cold fire, one small and humble corner of it all somehow grew complex enough and patient enough to come at last to love the very stars from which it first came. You're not separate from the great cosmos, standing somehow outside of it and watching from a safe distance. You're the cosmos itself, briefly and beautifully gathered into a living form that can feel and rest and dream. The very same ancient tranquility that fills all the immense space between the distant galaxies is the very same tranquility settling now down into you. The universe and the one small soul who wonders at it are in the very end of things the same single thing, breathing peacefully together in the dark. So let that knowledge be the very softest of all your pillows tonight. You belong entirely to all of it, to the light and to the dark, and to the stately turning of all the great wheels, and to the long unfolding of every single thing there is or ever was. There is nowhere at all that you do not truly belong, and nothing whatsoever that you need to hold or carry. The whole cosmos has carried itself across 14 billion years of patient time only to arrive, at very long last, at this one moment of rest, here, now, in you. The long journey through all these wonders is complete now, and there is nothing more for you to reach toward, nothing further left to know or to learn. And if you're still here, drifting at the very edge of sleep, another journey is already waiting for you there on the screen, ready and patient whenever you might wish for it, or never at all. There is no need to choose anything tonight. For now there is only this, and this is more than enough. The warmth of where you lie, the even rise and fall of your own breath, and the dark gathered close all around you. You do not need to remember any single one of the wonders this night has held. Simply let them all go now, every one, like distant stars dissolving away into the first pale light of dawn. They have already done their work, simply and completely, by passing through you. Whatever mattered here was never the knowing at all, but only the stillness, and the stillness is here with you now, complete and whole and unbroken. Let the breath grow slower still. Let the warm body grow heavy and still. Let the very last small thoughts drift gently away, like the faintest distant light, fading softly and slowly into the welcoming dark. There is nothing to do now. There is nowhere to be. There is only the warmth and the gentle weight of rest and the soft, kind night holding you close. Breathe in slowly and deeply, breathe out and simply let go. Feel how heavy you are, how safe, how very gently you're held. The stars are far away now and quiet, and they ask nothing at all of you. The dark is soft, the night is kind. Let everything settle now. Let everything be still. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.